Ron Howard's life began under the spotlight from a very young age, with cameras following him before he could even walk. Born on March 1, 1954, in Duncan, Oklahoma, he was introduced to the entertainment world by his parents, both actors. His father, Rance Howard, and his mother, Jean Spiegel, were already entrenched in the industry, which meant that Ron's childhood was anything but typical. By just 18 months old, he appeared in his first film, Frontier Woman, unknowingly stepping into a lifelong career. In the late 1950s, the family moved to California, chasing the promise of success in television. Ron, still a toddler, was already memorizing lines and performing while his peers were outside playing. Looking back, Ron described this period as a golden cage, safe but isolating, locked behind the walls of an industry that would demand more from him than he could ever choose for himself. The birth of Opie Taylor and early stardom. At the tender age of 6, Ron Howard's life changed forever when he was cast as Opie Taylor on The Andy Griffith Show. It was a role that would define his early career, making him a symbol of innocence for an entire generation of Americans. While the nation fell in love with Opie, Ron lived a more solitary existence, often doing schoolwork in a tiny room near the studio set. His father worked to protect him from the pressures of fame, guiding him through his scenes and encouraging him to act honestly rather than cutely. But despite the external image of the sweet, all-American boy, Ron carried a weight that no one saw. The emotional toll of being America's son, yet never truly his own, began to build quietly. It's a burden he admits in recent years he never truly shed, and one that followed him through his adult life. Teenage struggles and the price of fame. As Ron Howard entered his teenage years, the pressures of being in the public eye only grew. The Andy Griffith Show ended in 1968 when Ron was just 14, but the emotional cost of those 8 years in Mayberry had already left its mark. While most teenagers were experiencing the world on their terms, Ron was a child star confined to set routines. He split his schooling between Burbank classrooms and makeshift studio setups, where he often learned math while stagehands moved props around him. He missed out on the typical experiences of youth, the carefree moments of hanging out with friends and discovering the world on his own. These early sacrifices became a part of who he was, shaping a young man who would grow up with a sense of responsibility, yet longing for something more authentic than what fame allowed. Becoming Richie Cunningham and the desire for change. In 1974, at 19, Ron was cast as Richie Cunningham in Happy Days, a role that would cement his status as America's beloved boy next door. While millions of fans adored him, Ron found himself trapped in a character that no longer aligned with the world around him. By 1977, at 23, he felt the weight of portraying a teenager in a changing world, one defined by events like the Vietnam War, which his character never acknowledged. Frustrated by the lack of depth in his role, Ron even submitted a proposal to the show's producers, requesting a storyline that would reflect the realities of the time. When the idea was rejected, the growing suffocation led Ron to a pivotal realization. If he wanted to truly define his career and escape the constraints of his image, he had to step behind the camera. The regret of missing family moments. Despite his success and the accolades that came with it, nothing weighed heavier on Ron Howard than the decisions he made regarding his family. In 1991, while filming Far and Away in Ireland, Ron spent 6 months away from his wife, Cheryl, and their young children, including their newborn twins. The distance proved to be more than just physical. When he returned home, Ron found that his children barely recognized him. His daughter, Jocelyn, was distant, and Bryce barely reacted to his return. Cheryl, exhausted from raising their children on her own, struggled to articulate the emotional cost of Ron's absence. This realization was a turning point for Ron. He admitted that nothing mattered more than his family, and that no career success could replace the time he had lost with them. It was a mistake he vowed never to repeat. But life, as it often does, brought him back into the same cycle of workaholism, the struggle between career and family. As the years passed, Ron Howard found himself slipping back into the same destructive patterns. In 2005, during the reshoots for Cinderella Man, he once again found himself consumed by the demands of the film industry. Late nights, endless decisions, and missed milestones left him with a sense of regret. He returned home to a family that had grown without him, and a wife who had shouldered the weight of their home life alone. In reflecting on these years, Ron confessed that he had been running from a deep-seated belief that he always had to prove himself, always had to meet expectations, and always had to be the best. But as he grew older, the cost of this mindset became more apparent. His greatest achievement, he realized, was not his career but the time spent with his family. The battle with Clint and the fear of loss. One of the most significant relationships in Ron Howard's life has been with his younger brother, Clint Howard. While Clint is well known for his quirky roles in everything from Star Trek to Apollo 13, to Ron, Clint is more than just a colleague. He's the one person who truly understands the pressures of growing up in the entertainment industry. Together, they shared a childhood shaped by the relentless demands of show business. However, as adults, Clint struggled with addiction, leading to a dark period in his life. Ron, devastated by his brother's struggles, gave Clint an ultimatum: seek help or lose the relationship forever. Clint chose rehab, and by 2021, they co-authored a memoir, The Boys, in which they openly shared their journey of healing and redemption. But now, Ron faces an even greater fear: Clint's declining health. Ron has described Clint's condition as life-altering, and for the first time, he feels helpless. He cannot fix this, and the thought of losing his brother has shaken him to his core. The fear of losing Clint and reflecting on his life. As Clint's condition worsens, Ron Howard is faced with the reality of a situation he cannot control. For someone who has spent his life behind the camera, crafting stories and creating narratives, this is a chapter he can't rewrite. In recent interviews, Ron admitted that this personal battle has shaken him more than any professional setback. The memories of their shared childhood, the moments when they leaned on each other for comfort amid the chaos of fame, have now become a painful reminder of what he stands to lose. The guilt that has accompanied Ron throughout his life is now compounded by the fear of not being able to protect Clint sooner. Ron has stepped back from his busy career, turning down projects and focusing on spending more time with his family. For the first time in a long while, his life no longer revolves around deadlines or studio schedules. Instead, it's about being present for the people he loves, particularly his brother, whose health has become his greatest concern. The greatest achievement: family and reflection. At 71, Ron Howard has achieved more than most could ever dream of in a career. But as he reflects on his life, he realizes that his greatest achievements are not the awards or the films, but the time he has spent with the people he loves. For the first time, he's truly focused on telling his own story, rather than just those of others. As his career winds down, Ron has come to understand that the success of his films means little if it comes at the cost of his family. The most important lessons he's learned have come not from Hollywood, but from the quiet moments spent with Cheryl, his children, and especially Clint. The heartache that Ron has carried for years is not the result of failures in his career, but the realization that he's lost precious time, a realization he's finally ready to confront.